seated. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Marilyn Wells.
Wow, wow, what a rousing rendition, and welcome to our sesquicentennial year. Let's give the Maverick Machine and Michael Thursby another round of applause. Welcome to our Fall 2017 Convocation at Minnesota State University, Mankato, in the beginning of a new academic year, one in which we will robustly celebrate our sesquicentennial, culminating in October 2018. It is my pleasure to recognize some very special and honored guests this morning. Dr. Jane Early, Dean Emerita, College of Arts and Humanities. And Minnesota State Representative Clark Johnson. It is now my pleasure to introduce our leadership team at Minnesota State Mankato. I ask that each of our leaders to please stand and be recognized as I say your name. I ask the audience to please hold your applause until all of our leaders have been recognized. The President's Cabinet. Vice President for Finance and Administration, Rick Straka. Okay, we're awake this morning. Vice President for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management, Dr. David Jones. Vice President for Information Technology Solutions and CIO, Mark Johnson. Vice President for University Advancement, Kent Stanley. Vice President for Strategic Partnerships, Michael Gustafson. Dean, Institutional Diversity and Chief Diversity Officer, Dr. Henry Morris. Assistant Vice President for Institutional Research, Planning and Assessment, Dr. Lynn Akey. The President's Executive Administrative Officer, Sherry Sargent. And now our Council of Deans, Dr. Bobby Fleshman, Associate Provost. Dr. Barry Reese, Associate Vice President for Research and Graduate Dean. Dr. Ginger Ziert, Assistant Vice President for Undergraduate Education. Dr. Christine Rutherford, Dean of the College of Allied Health and Nursing, where we have been promoting the health and well-being of communities for 65 years. Dr. Matt Cecil, Dean, College of Arts and Humanities, promoting the ideals of liberal education for over 100 years. Dr. Brenda Flannery, Dean of the College of Business, an AACSB accredited business school for 20 years and the clear choice for real-world experiences. Dr. Jean Haar, Dean of the College of Education, where we have been producing teachers since our founding in 1868. Dr. Brian Martinson, Dean of the College of Science, Engineering, and Technology, where solutions, teaching, exploration, and mentorship prepare tomorrow's professionals. Dr. Aaron Budge, Associate Dean, College of Science, Engineering, and Technology, also where programs annually win awards for curricular innovation. Dr. Maria Bavacqua, Interim Dean, College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, a community of diverse learners transforming the social world for a new era. Dr. Joanne Roca, Dean, Library Services, celebrating 50 years of our Memorial Library, ever-changing to meet student needs. Dr. Stephen Stoynoff, Dean, Global of Education, where you discover the world. Dr. Tom Norman, Dean of University Education, meeting the needs of working professionals for today and tomorrow. And now, additional members of the President's expanded cabinet. Director of Human Resources, Steve Barrett. Director of Equal Opportunity and Title IX, Cyrenthia Jordan. Director of Athletics, Kevin Beisman. Assistant Vice President for Facilities Management, Paul Corcoran. Assistant Vice President for Budget and Business Services, Steve Smith. Director of the Center for Talent Development, Lou Dickmeyer. Senior Director of Institutional Diversity, Dr. Kelly Meyer. And now it's my honor to introduce our bargaining units and student leadership. The President of our Minnesota State Faculty Association, Dr. Mary Visser. The President of our Minnesota State Administrative and Service Faculty, Sarah Gramberg-Rademacher. The President of our AFSCME Council, Patrick Pierce. The Vice President of our Minnesota Association of Professional Employees, Michael McLaughlin. The President of our Middle Management Association, Matt Clay. On behalf of the Minnesota Government Engineers Council, Kevin Schul. On behalf of the Minnesota Nurses Association, Toya Schmidtke. And the President of our Minnesota State Student Association, Abdul Aziz. Thank you all for your leadership. Time does not allow me to introduce all of our new employees personally this morning. Instead, I ask all of our new employees to please stand and receive our very warm welcome and applause. This morning, we are also joined by members of our Emeriti faculty and staff. Would you please stand and allow us to honor you and your years of service at MSU? It says a lot about our university that they choose to continue to come out and enjoy us and support us and allow us to enjoy and support them. And now it is my deepest honor and great privilege to welcome our 12th president of Minnesota State University Mankato, now in his 16th year, Dr. Richard Davenport.
Well, good morning, everyone. The start of a new year, it's always refreshing. And I just wanted to comment, if you look around the room, we got panels that are just incredible. You'll find them everywhere around the campus this year. And then I hope that you do a photo op out in the hallway with our new birthday cake. We celebrated this weekend at my home, the 150th birthday. We're so happy to have our good friend and colleague, Jane Early, with us today, already introduced, but she's a special friend to me. And she's been there through a lot of difficult times, and very happy that you're joining us, Jane. Thank you so much. So, you know, I want to, first of all, really thank the Provost. Dr. Wells, you do such a great job and a glowing introduction and recognizing everybody. But what a lot of people may not know, and I want to underscore this, is your amazing leadership. What you do in your job as provost is truly exceptional. Now, having been a provost myself for 12 years before I came here, I can say with some bias that not many people work harder than the provost. It is grueling. It's a rewarding job, though, but moreover, we also have a tremendous team of administrative deans and vice presidents who are exceptional and do an outstanding job as well. And you've been introduced to all of them today. So today, I stand behind my early observation of more than 15 years ago that when I came to this faculty and staff and had done a lot of research, I honestly believe, and I can stand by it today, that we have the best faculty and staff of any American university, no matter what type it is. So thank you, by the way, all of our faculty and staff for the great job that you do. The heart and soul of any university. And I want to also take a moment to acknowledge presidents past, starting with Emeriti Margaret Preska and Richard Brush. Margaret is recovering nicely from a stroke of a few months ago, and she sends her very best wishes. Unfortunately, Margaret lost her loving husband, Dan, just a few weeks ago. And I want you to know that Dick Rush retired this past year from California State University at Channel Islands, brand new university that he helped get off the ground. And I would say that if Jim Nickerson were around, if he could have only lived another 10 years, I think he was 99 possibly, he would be enjoying this celebration with us here this year. But I know that Jim is with us in spirit. And this year we plan to celebrate his book about the Vietnam era during his days here in higher education. Well, all of these presidents will be remembered for being outstanding presidents. And it's one of the reasons I came, because there were good presidents here beforehand. There were not a lot of problems. Many of you have heard me say that. It is true. And I just want to say that we want to honor them always. And I look forward to welcoming back Margaret and Dick Rush this year to celebrate our sesquicentennial. So you'll get a chance to see them and talk with them and see what life was like back in the days they were here. I hope that you'll take notice, too, that the title of my university address, Determining Our Destiny, a New Era, is really fitting as we celebrate our sesquicentennial and, of course, embark on the next 150 years. In my speech this morning, you're going to learn a lot about our recent retreat, last year's accomplishments, both new and ongoing goals and challenges facing us not only in our dear state of Minnesota here, but the bigger challenges facing higher education on a national scale. You're also going to hear a lot of numbers. And I'm going to tell you, my speech will be posted, so don't try to write them all down or remember them. But I love metrics, and it's because of the influence of Lynn Akey. Where are you, Lynn? If people don't like the numbers, blame her. That's a good way to introduce her. In addition, Provost Wells will follow with an address that speaks to the specific ways in which we will manage the headwinds of higher education and at the same time expand our ambitious university agenda. Overall, while almost everyone at the university and at universities are struggling to keep their heads above water, Minnesota State has fared pretty well, all in all. Our enrollments have not taken a permanent nosedive like so many institutions, and we've been able to maintain a fairly steady and balanced enrollment after recovering from a drop of several hundred students a few years ago. Unfortunately, the same cannot be stated for some of our peer institutions in Minnesota who have essentially lost thousands of students over the same period, setting a new and lower enrollment base for themselves. I referenced a minute ago the struggles that we are having in higher education. And to illustrate my point, the news media is replete with stories and commentaries that are not always very positive for the academy. So let me just take a minute to cite just a few of the headlines that I reviewed over the course of a few weeks. I had about 20, and I sized it down a little bit. So here's one of the headlines. The decade ahead promises great change in higher education. Declining international students and its impact on your enrollment, retention, and revenue. Why should we invest in new Americans? The assault on the colleges and the American dream. Or, here's how much college will cost you this year. Promises and pitfalls of online education. And proposed federal policy would cripple university research. Report shows the extent of campus cyber attack activities in the U.S., just to name a few. And I'm positive that all of you could add many more stories and headlines to demonstrate our public and internal challenges in higher education. Fortunately, there are segments of higher education that are fighting back and taking a very proactive approach to addressing the increasing criticisms and the misrepresentations of higher education. And I would add that we have one more issue, perhaps the biggest elephant in the room, and that's financial sustainability. This is perhaps the most challenging goal for our system and other universities around the country. I will talk more about our goals a little later this morning. So let me start out by talking a little bit about the retreat. Every year about this time, it has become tradition for the president to host a fall retreat at Gustavus Adolphus College. The retreat is attended by more than 100 campus leaders, including administrators, bargaining unit leaders, student government, and other faculty and staff. This year, we also had a special guest. We had two special guests, Interim Chancellor Devinder Malhotra and Mr. Tim Hips, who's the president of the MSU Foundation. They joined us for this special day. We heard from attendees that this particular retreat was one of the most engaging and thought-provoking that we've had so far. Again, I give Provost Wells much credit for organizing the event, along with the other cabinet members. The major theme that developed in the retreat was to discuss the changing national higher education landscape and to talk about how our university must determine our destiny relative to these challenges. And that's what I'm going to be spending a lot of time talking about today. Well, anyway, at the retreat, we began the day with a panel discussion by our cabinet members. The panel questions focused on how each division is responding to current trends and how we are looking to implement strategic plans for continued success, and what big ideas we can generate after looking at our peer and competitor or aspirant universities. A team from Institutional Diversity facilitated a very positive interactive session on microaggressions. We had many stimulating speakers and themes at the 12 roundtable discussions. By the way, we had come up with 21 different topics for the retreat for a roundtable discussion. We had to cut that back to 12 because we listened to you, those that were attending and wanting to participate in more of the roundtables. Anyway, let me just say there were a variety of subjects discussed touching each area of the university. But a highlight of that day, as I was about to mention earlier, was our special afternoon speaker, Chancellor Malhotra. We're honored to have Devinder join us. He shared his perspective on the changing national landscape, noting that to navigate the new higher education environment, institutions will need to be more flexible and adaptable than ever before. He also outlined his priorities for the Minnesota state system for this year, which include financial sustainability, that makes sense, student success, and empowering institutions in a coordinated way. I really love that last one. I hope you can understand the importance of that. And he opened the floor for questions, and we had the opportunity to engage in a very robust conversation on many important topics. And I thank many of the presenters and organizers at this retreat as well for the highly successful year that we have and had. And I always appreciate how we come together to discuss current issues, which then positions the university to implement initiatives for success. So my speech today, if you don't like it, by the way, it's because of the retreat and the feedback that I got and the fact that I'm underscoring mostly one or two really important topics. But before I get into that serious part of my speech, let's talk briefly about achievements. And of course, we have the newspaper ad, a full 1 or 2 pages acknowledging the accomplishments of our faculty and staff and others. And it's never enough. We might need to take out more pages in the newspaper. But it's my pleasure now to share with you a number of notable achievements from this past year. And please understand, if you're not included, it doesn't mean that your achievements were not equally important. It just means that you would have had to been here another 20, 30 minutes today to hear all those achievements. But please know, we value them, and I certainly appreciate it. We opened 2 new spectacular campus buildings in January, our $31.4 million University Dining Center and the nearly same amount Clinical Sciences building. The Dining Center has already seen a 20% increase in the number of meals served. And additionally, the space in our new Dining Center was featured in the Food Service Directors magazine, highlighting our open layout and fresh sustainability initiatives. So if you haven't been there, get over there and take advantage. It's really quite spectacular. And then, speaking of spectacular, I bet many of you, except possibly some of the newer folks that are joining us today, have not seen the Clinical Sciences building, state-of-the-art facility housing the departments of nursing, dental hygiene, and communication disorders. Well, this building represents a great partnership area where community members can come to campus, receive services, education, or training in these 3 particular areas. Plus, I might add, and it's maybe biased, but it has probably the most beautiful view of campus from the 3rd floor. So you really need to get over there and check it out, right, Chris? Well, it was another, and you can get your teeth cleaned while you're there and get your hearing checked. So, so anyway, it was another accomplishment-filled year in theater and dance, highlighted by senior Claire Clausen, who was named the top musical theater actor in the nation at the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival in New York. Congratulations, Paul, and your theater program. The most incredible dance and theater programs right here in our home institution. Additionally, our dance program has been featured at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. for the last 3 National Dance Festivals of American College Dance Association, and we have just run away with all the prizes, haven't we? Where is our dance director I saw here earlier? Oh, please stand and take a bow. Thank you. Maybe you could dance later. Oh, okay, well, and of course I can't, talk about accomplishments without mentioning athletics. But notice I always put the important stuff first. I'm sorry, I always put the academics first. We're very, sorry, Kevin. We are very proud of our women's softball team who became the NCAA Division II champions. And I don't know if anybody's in the audience. I just want to say that Governor Dayton will be seeing them, I believe, this Friday to recognize them, and I'll try to be there along with others. Just an outstanding feat on the part of our women's softball. Additionally, in the area of athletics, we scored 2nd place in the Northern Sun, that's all sports trophy, and placed 8th nationally in the highly coveted Learfield Directors Cup. And a lot of people might not know what that is, but it's probably what every university in the country wants. And so we placed 8th. I guess we placed 8th this year. And we also had 7 teams that won the Northern Sun regular season and tournament play. 7 coaches received Coach of the Year honors, and then a remarkable 28 student athletes achieved All-American status. And I just want to say, the grade point average in our with our student athletes is about 3.2 overall compared to our regular student body at 3.04. So Kevin, you and your team, thank you for making sure that academics comes first. And thanks to the great work of our university advancement led by Vice President Kent Stanley, along with our foundation board. Kent, of course, has been with us for a year. He set the bar pretty high, and that he raised $17.4 million with help from a lot of others, over 6,900 donors. So $17.4 million was the highest of any institution in Minn State. And so therefore he raised the bar. So don't you all believe that this should go up a little bit higher? And so Ken, I'm thinking maybe like 25 million this year. Where is Kent? Oh, he's passed out over there. So he's please, yeah. He's nervous now because it's public. Well, I'm pleased to share that this year our campus drive will be taking on a new format, and we'll focus on raising support for student scholarships. That's important. Student scholarships and emergency student needs. Why is that important? Because more students drop out of college because they're missing a few $100s or $1,000 in order to keep them in school, to pay their rent or whatever. And so we're really refocusing that effort. There's more information to come on that campus drive later. And thanks to Rick Strucka and his group, you may have noticed the lighting in your offices and departments look a little different. I will tell you, even though it's about 75% finished, our Guaranteed Energy Savings Project agreement for improving lighting on campus will pay for itself in 15 years. I think it's like a $8 million project. So let me just stop right there. So, of course, I got my lighting in my office. But when people came to my office, I noticed they were very uncomfortable because it looked like they were at the FBI under a huge light, and we were, checking them out to see if they were telling the truth. So I had to have my lights dimmed way down because it was way too bright. But they certainly light up the room, Rick, and I think that everybody will appreciate that. Our IT Solutions has been selected, this is a pretty big deal, to present their cutting-edge work at a national conference called Fusion 2017. This is the leading organization on IT service management, and it's a tremendous honor to be selected. So Mark Johnson, thank you for you and your team of moving us forward there. Institutional diversity is always one of our most important areas of focus. But we provided a lot of group visits for up to students and people coming to campus. More than 2,200 prospective students. And additionally, we made more than 2,200 follow-up phone calls to develop further relationships with our prospective students. And some of you have heard this before, but this is amazing. I really don't know of any university or campus in the country that hosts 250 campus diversity events throughout the year. Thank you, Henry, for all your hard work on that. I was told that they don't just host them, people come. Like 10,000 people came last year. And very important, I'll talk more about this later, but our diversity and inclusion plan was selected by the system office as a model plan for other Minnesota State universities to emulate. And so that's a big deal. We completed our campus climate study, the results of which will help us rewrite our 3-year diversity and inclusion plan this coming year. So everyone will be involved in that. Our Student Affairs and Enrollment Management Division continues to serve and support our students in a variety of ways, both behind the scenes and through public activities and events. Let me stop right there for a second and just say the heart of my speech today will be enrollment management. And so Student Affairs plays a major role. So we cannot fail. And I would say that David Jones knows that. He's not nervous. He's here today, but he knows we have to be successful. And by the way, that's the point. It's not David. It's everybody, everybody. And I'll get to that in a second. So major accomplishments in his area include after-hours online chat feature support for student success. Dr. Jones also led his division in the development of the 2017-2022 Student Affairs Strategic Plan, and I hope that you all get a chance to take a look at that and provide input. Strategic partnerships under Mike Gustafson has had a tremendous year. The Small Business Development Center has 400 current clients with 198 new clients for the year 2017. And of these clients, this past year, 30 started their own business, and $15 million was issued in loans for these new business startups. And what does that mean? It means that we created, because of that, because of our program here, SBDC, and the work of that division, we created 832 new jobs. That is important for the state of Minnesota. Yeah, sure, Mike. And a lot of other big successes. In addition, our continuing education professional development team increased revenue generated from operations over 94% in 1 year and serves almost 8,000 individuals through non-credit classes. And we thank Lou Dickmeyer for that, and turning that around is really important because why? It happens to be one of the measures that's factored into the allocation formula, and all of a sudden we're really stepping up our efforts to make sure that we receive the appropriate credit for that. Well, I could go on and on. But instead, I've asked Provost Wells to talk about academic affairs initiatives and accomplishments in her address later this morning. I could spend a lot of time talking about that, but I've asked her to focus on that as appropriately as it is. But as you can see, there are an incredible number of accomplishments here at the university that we should be proud of. We are proud of it. It represents just the tip of the iceberg. We have so many more wonderful achievements that are occurring each and every day, and we're very proud of that. I encourage you, though, in that regard, to read our campus newsletter throughout the year, which highlights upcoming university activities, announcements, and department, faculty, and student achievements. We haven't always had that, and it's been difficult to know how do we spend our time, what events do we go to, what are the, and by reading that newsletter, you can kind of plan out your week. So now I want to switch over to a subject that's really important because it's necessary for us to evaluate our successes or to have somebody else evaluate our successes. So I want to talk about institutional evaluation. So when we consider institutional evaluation, it's important to look at our progress through many different lenses. So in June, I met with the outgoing chancellor, what was his name? No, to discuss both my annual performance evaluation and our institutional review. That was a joke, Stephen, in case you're listening. I'm probably not going to be here next week after that, but he no longer works here. All right, enough of that. As part of this meeting, anyway, with with Chancellor Rosenstone, we reviewed our university goals and the corresponding metrics used to evaluate institutions within the system. And our university has clear areas of strength, including the number of students that we serve and the certificates, degrees that we award. We're now the largest university in terms of full-time students in FYE in the Min-State system. Our university continues to become more diverse. In fact, last year, the percentage of our employees that identified as racial or ethnic minority increased to 11.2%, and domestic students of color that we serve grew to 14.5% of the student population. This past year, we also increased in 1 year the number of students enrolled in customized training and continuing education, as I was saying earlier, increased by 46%, or 2,500 plus students. We also saw improvements this past year in two important institutional measures. Our 6-year undergraduate student completion rate increased finally from 52.3%, nothing to be real proud of, to 54.8%, showing positive progress. I would mention, though, that our graduation rate is on par, maybe slightly ahead of the national average. But that's really not good enough. You all know that is not the case. So significant work is still required. However, to bring the 6-year student completion rate above our system set target of 60%. You know, I have goals for going way beyond that. And I've told a lot of people the story that when I came, I talked to the president at the University of Minnesota, and their graduation rate at that time was like 65%. And the president told me, Bob Brunix at the time told me, he said, "Richard, this is not acceptable. I'm going to spend the rest of my time here moving those graduation rates up." And guess what? They're about 92% today. It can be done. It can be done. So we're going to work really hard to get our graduation rates up at that level. By the way, that was their retention rates, but their graduation rates have gone up to around 80, in the mid-80s. Well, here's a reflection of our budget side of the institution. Our composite financial index increased from 1.31 to 2.5. May not mean anything to you, but it remains above the system university's average of 1.63. Don't expect that to be the same next year because we put up some new buildings, and that certainly always influences the CFI. Weaknesses that we must continue to address this coming year, though, coming out of this evaluation, stuff that we already knew, was increasing the persistence and completion rates of all of our students, reducing the persistence and completion gap between students of color and white students. We must identify ways to support success and timely degree completion for all of our students. And that's a huge challenge. Finally, we continue to be challenged on demonstrating high student achievement on licensure exams compared to Min-State system peer institutions. Student performance and achievement on licensure exam provides a critical reflection on our university. And I know we keep working on that every year, and we're going to really raise the bar on that this coming year. So, in addition, during this evaluation, to take a look at our institution and how we're doing, our report card, in regards to looking at system goals and metrics, we also have additional internal goals and metrics that are factored into our evaluation. For instance, in addition to successfully completing and opening the University Dining Center Clinical Sciences building, we mitigated the Ford Hall water damage that occurred over winter break, and reopened that building in time for classes in January, thanks to our grounds crew and all of our people in facilities management. That was an incredible effort by our facilities staff as well as the faculty and staff. Thank you for hanging in there with us until we had that fixed. The cabinet also, in our overall evaluation measure, we review our existing campus master plan periodically to determine if changes are necessary as we move forward with future projects. And so this year, discussion centered around pending campus improvements, including these kind of things: a new Armstrong Hall. I know that's going to help a lot of people to finally get a decision on what we're going to do, but the latest information we have is that that's going to be the preferred approach rather than rather than trying to fix up Armstrong Hall, which would cost us even more money. But the downside is that it will be 60,000 square feet less than what we currently have, 144,000 square feet. So we have to figure out how to maximize our space here on campus, so everybody will be involved in that. We also looked in our campus master plan about where we would locate a new college of business. Now we're about our 10th time trying to find a different site. So, we have to take a look at our indoor student recreation, fitness, and athletics center, as well as other athletic field improvements. So those are a few of the things. One last thing on the campus master plan was that reviewed the pedestrian campus idea that we've talked about years ago that would include a major enhancement of all of our, of the University Mall area. And so those are the issues that we have to factor into our planning. So anything that we do in campus construction or planning impacts all of these things together, so they have to be factored in together. So we'll have a lot of discussion about that this year. On the bonding side, where we, of course, hope to have some of our buildings funded, unfortunately, we were passed over by the legislature, Minnesota legislature, for a Phase 2 clinical science bonding project during this past session. I will say the bonding project has a good chance of being supported this coming year if both political parties agree to support a bonding bill. I would say right now, on the MnSCU, the Minnesota State System list, we're ranked number 4, or we have HEAPR, repair of equipment and buildings, as number 1, of course, and then 3 steps down below that on that list, our project, our bonding project is included. We really need another bonding project, and I think it's going to be difficult to do. We need a bonding project this year for planning Armstrong Hall. I will be straightforward with you. I don't think it's likely we're going to get that. There is a sense within the Board of Trustees, and everything that I hear is that campuses are going to be sizing down. Now, our argument is that we're not one of those campuses. We're growing. We're continuing to be even stronger. And so don't apply the same rules to Minnesota State here, Mankato, because we need that new space and renovated space. And we need to be on the cutting edge of facilities. The other area that came under evaluation is making sure that we implement the new MnState branding on schedule. And I just say that comes out of the system office and the Board of Trustees, and we're right on schedule. You know, it rubs me just a little wrong that they stole our name, but, you know, it's a compliment to MnState. So, you know, when I wrote my speech today, I had to keep changing MnState because, well, I mean, even our song says MnState. If you looked at our song, we were singing it, and it says MnState. So we may have to change the song. Anyway, so many different areas, like IT solutions is another area, had numerous initiatives addressed, including our new concierge model, thanks to Mark Johnson and his group for service delivery to provide improved communication and issue resolution for users. IT solutions moved to the Academic Computer Center and the Wigley Center kiosk, as many of you know, to enable service closer to the customer. And these are just a few examples of the achievements in IT solutions. So I talked a little bit about Student Affairs Division, but this past year was another banner year for Student Affairs and our University Enrollment Management, beginning with undergraduate admissions, welcoming our 3rd largest first-year class in our history. The year progressed quite well, nearly 13,000 jobs and internships for our students from over 6,750 employers were posted also through the Career Development Center. And under Student Affairs, both the Counseling Center and Student Health Center were fully reaccredited. We have new student and family programs that launched a new online orientation, began the implementation of our new MavConnect student support and early alert software. And this one is very important to me. We hired a new part-time military and veteran student success coordinator to serve our students. So, you know, I say, David, thank you for your hard work. David Jones in Student Affairs, please recognize his division, who works really, really hard to make this a good place for our students. Our newest division, Strategic Partnerships, headed up by Vice President Michael Gustafson, has been working on a number of groundbreaking initiatives, including the downtown Hubbard building, now known as the Center for Strategic Planning and Partnerships, and was opened and will include several important areas to serve Mankato and greater southern Minnesota region. The following is located downtown now: the College of Business Entrepreneurship Center, the Small Business Development Center, the Continuing Education and Customized Training Center, the College of Extended Learning, and the Vice President's office. I might add, he has a much bigger office than mine. He even has his own bathroom, and he has a patio outside his door. So am I jealous? No, but anyway, seriously. As we look at his Division 2, we are also talking about the Twin Cities and serving the populations there. So a new lease is almost final for the 7700 France Center, where we will move all operations to the 5th floor of the building. And this will result in a much more compact and reduced footprint. This move will also save more than $150,000 annually and provide much needed exterior signage. So those of you that have been at 7700 France and you're looking around, where's our sign? Where's our name? It's not really been anywhere. So we're going to have signage on the outside of the building finally. We may be one of the first at that center to have this signage. So a lot of hard work coming there from his staff, and we appreciate that. And at the same time, we're just down the road a few miles. We have Normandale Community College, and we will continue to strengthen our ongoing relationship with them. And Tom Norman is the person that sort of heads up that Twin Cities area. And Tom, thank you for being attentive to all of that. Anyway, so you can see how I could just go on and on all day long, you know. And I know we have a couple of other things to do here, but it's important to recognize what we've accomplished. And if you don't take time to do that, then we need that reinforcement and to know that we're moving ahead. It's very important. So as we continuously evaluate our progress, I could literally use the rest of the time this morning, as I indicated. However, I want to share with you most of the rest of the morning some of my general thoughts about a few select and important issues at this time. I don't plan to cover all the important issues and goals this morning. Provost Wells and I will share that objective. So if something isn't included on my radar in my speech this morning, don't take it personally. Is that we're trying to divide that task up between the two of us. I recently had an interesting conversation with one of our vice presidents, David Jones. And our full discussion centered around mostly one thing: student enrollment, demographics, enrollment issues. It was a really informative meeting, fascinating to learn that recent Minnesota demographics have been revised. Minnesota's higher education commissioner, Larry Poggemiller, who has been on our campus many times, noted high school graduation rates are at an all-time high. That is, the actual percentage of students graduating versus dropping out of high school is higher, so that's good news. Yet, because of demographic trends, Minnesota is actually graduating fewer students, even though a higher percentage of students graduate. Last year's high school class was 6% smaller than the class of 2010, to illustrate my point. The college-going rate among new Minnesota high school graduates fell slightly in 2016 for a third straight year. It fell to 69.6%. Previously had been at 71.5%. It's expected that approximately 62,700 high school students will graduate each year. Now think about it, that seems like a lot of students. But think about the number of colleges and universities recruiting this high school class. It's amazing. Larry Poggemiller, Commissioner Poggemiller, noted that the percentage of non-white public high school graduates will increase from 20 to 29% during the next 15 years. So we need to be prepared to welcome all students to this campus and to recruit those students to our campus. With the economy going so well, there are going to be an increased number of students electing to get jobs right out of high school, according to Commissioner Poggemiller. In other words, there's jobs. And where there's jobs, students are going to go for those jobs. But he anticipates that 50% of the students elected to enter the workforce right after high school graduation will come back, and they'll enter college by age 24. So there'll be a bit of a delay before they enroll in college. So these new demographic statistics are interesting and revealing. The same higher ed commissioner noted that Minnesota State system enrollment has also declined each year since 2010, as the U.S. economy has recovered from the Great Recession. That was sort of to be expected. But also the University of Minnesota system, the other system, is down less than 1% today in total enrollment, compared with 6 years ago. So they're even having their issues. Poggemiller expects that the other flagship institution will gain 400 students this year. Let's sort of think about that for a minute, the other flagship. Anyway, as they continue to grow this university and the numbers, the competition for students will increase dramatically. Really serious for us to make sure that we keep all the students that we do enroll. Closer to home, the MSU enrollment indicators continue to look relatively positive. Vice President Jones, during our conversation, mentioned that the overall applications for graduate and undergraduate students will reach our second highest level with over 17,139 applications received for fall 2017. That's this year, which is actually 1.7% less than last year. We received 14,968 undergraduate applications, which is 0.6% less, 0.6% less than last year. And this includes fewer students who intend to enroll, including a decrease in undergraduate first-time students by 6.7%. Undergraduate transfer students are down 4.9%. Graduate first-time students are up 17.8%. And our enrollment of students of color is also up by 1.8%. These are all good factors. This is good news for us right now. But in regards to international students, I talked to Dean of International Affairs, Dr. Stoyanov, just a few days ago, and asking him about the reports of enrollment since fall of 2010. He noted that international student enrollment has more than doubled since then, reaching a record high this spring of 1,238 and placing us 23rd among our national peer institutions. We actually think that number is going to be higher, but we're playing it safe. Students from 97 different countries. While the growth in our international student population is impressive, the diversity of our international student population is really extraordinary. Our international students come from all those different countries and literally from every region of the world. That is good. It's a positive way that our students can get some sort of exposure to other international views, more of a global education. A recent survey of U.S. colleges and universities found that 40% of institutions experienced a significant decline in international student applications for this fall. 40%. Minnesota State, Mankato, was not among them. Thank you, Steve, for your hard work. So Steve said international student applications were up 25% over last fall. And as a result, we will welcome more than 400 new international students to campus this year. New international academic pathway programs were recently established with institutions, on top of all the other partnerships, institutions in China, the Ivory Coast, and Malaysia. And that extends our global reach of this institution. And we're going to place more and more emphasis on study abroad programs and partnerships around the world, such as those. But anyway, back to these enrollment figures, comparing system universities, Metropolitan State and Bemidji State, for example, are seeing very slight increases in enrollment this fall, amounting to about 20 to 25 full-time students each. St. Cloud, unfortunately, one of our sister universities, continues to drop enrollment with a 5% fewer full-time equivalent student, or in real numbers, 236 full-time students less. So they continue to take that nosedive. We are really concerned about that. As of this date, MSU is down, compared to all the other institutions, 73 FYE for this fall. Those numbers can change, as David always points out to me. Don't take it to the bank yet. But our new international student enrollment could move as close to last year's total enrollment, depending on whether all the interested applicants enroll. And by the way, the same is true for all of our new students, our regular new students. So the numbers aren't firm, but it does give us a pretty good indication at this point in time. You might recall, on top of all of this, that I mentioned in my address that 30% of high school graduates in Minnesota intend to enroll in college right away. They select out-of-state colleges and universities, 30% of them. That's 30% that we don't have looking in-state at our institutions, making the competition for students even greater. So clearly every Minnesota institution is going to be fighting for the diminishing pool of new students wanting to enroll in Minnesota colleges. So it has become very, very competitive. And so the reason I've gone into so much detail on the topic of enrollment management, giving you so many numbers that I don't expect you to all remember, is that it is crystal clear that after reviewing state and national data, that everyone's enrollment challenges are becoming more and more difficult to achieve, and understanding that this affects our bottom line in regards to financial sustainability. Now, while I have adopted the mantra over the years that it is everyone's job to help increase our enrollment, student retention, and graduation rates, it couldn't be more obvious today. This goal is first and foremost to assist our students in being successful without diminishing our standards in educational quality. That's why I've made this the centerpiece of my speech today. And if you go back and look at our speeches for the last 5 years, there wasn't a time when I didn't talk about enrollment management and how important it is. And it's the same today. It's even more critical today. And I think one of the reasons we're where we are as a university is because we have made greater strides than our competitors. But we haven't made enough. And for all the students, probably more than 40% of our students who do not graduate with a degree from this institution, think about that. Where are those students going? Did they go on with their education? We have only graduated 6 out of 10 if you look at a 6-7 year rate of graduation. I gave you a figure earlier of about 53 or something like that for 6-year rate. But let me just say, that's not good enough. We have to make that our top priority. And that's going to require everybody really working together. So you can talk about it and you can say all that, and if you don't have a plan, it doesn't really make any difference. It's only rhetoric. But how we assist all of our students is really important. Unfortunately, our underrepresented student populations continue to fall even further behind their white counterparts by approximately 10% in reaching graduation hurdles. Everyone, I can't emphasize enough that success in achieving these challenges are going to dramatically influence our future as a university. We have not been sitting still or ignoring this challenge, as I said. However, for various reasons, we are not being successful at moving the persistence needle at the undergraduate level. So, once again, I'll say it, I urge everyone to double his or her efforts and work smart, utilizing whatever tools we have at your disposal in order to succeed. This is essential for our future. So enough with the numbers, but that is really the heart and soul of what we need to do besides continuing our everyday work here at the institution to change and to have an impact on the future. I want to talk a little bit about a lighter topic, something a little more fun, And that has to do with our sesquicentennial planning. So, by the way, don't all rush out after the event today and get your picture taken in front of the birthday cake. But there'll be plenty of time for you to do that because it's going to be there for quite a while. Anyway, the planning's been going on for a full year. And while we seem to always be wrestling with our many challenges, it's also important to take time to celebrate. And I'm talking about planning for our sesquicentennial. Dr. Paul Hustles, who's in the audience, and you already applauded him once, so you don't have to do it again. Dr. Paul Hustles is leading the celebration that and also has provided me with an update on our progress. And to quote Paul, "We intend to spend the next academic year celebrating our upcoming sesquicentennial leading up to October 2018. Hundreds of volunteers have been working for the past 16 months to find big and small ways to remind us about our rich and diverse history. You've already seen our sesquicentennial branding on documents and publications, parking permits, and even some town buses. So everybody keep your eyes open in the next few days for the new bus wraps that are about to be unveiled. They're pretty fantastic. Throughout this year, you will see historical information in the Reporter and the Free Press, and in front of all events, we hope to have historical information panels highlighting certain aspects of the university, such as student life, athletics, the individual colleges, and so forth. You can see the panels displayed here in the ballroom today, and aren't they great? Thank you, Paul, for that. Twice in one day. Paul also noted that we republished President James Nickerson's compelling story retelling of the turbulent Vietnam War era right here at MSU, and it's entitled Out of Chaos. And kind of neat that it's going to serve as our common read for this academic year. It's not the only book. We'll be publishing this January, Professor Emeritus William Lass's History of the University, all the way up to the present time. In the meantime, we still need your help to tell our story. So throughout the year, we will feature MAV Talks based on TED Talks that either tell our story or just share our work. So we want to record oral histories. Every college, in fact, has a designated month to sponsor a signature event, as well as many smaller adventures into our past and present. We are also planning a magnificent homecoming parade in 2018 involving the city of Mankato, North Mankato, and the university. And this parade is going to be downtown and promises to be possibly one of the largest and most colorful parades in the history of Mankato. Anyway, all of this activity will culminate in the fall of 2018 during the first week in October, leading to our official birthday. Does anybody know what our official birthday is? October 7th, you got it. 2018 will be 150 years old. So this will be a joyous time for all of us, and please bring your fun ideas forward so we can include those in our celebration. So I've talked about enrollment management. I talked about sesquicentennial, to kind of balancing those two topics off. And now I want to talk about another emerging topic in higher education, and one that I think we need to address and wrestle with here at this institution, and that is online learning. So when we think about online learning, we know we've moved forward over the past 10 years, and higher education certainly has, from an experimental way of delivering education in a different format to a more mainstream higher education delivery model. And if you look around the country and you read the headlines about Purdue and important universities, possibly even Harvard, developing online programs, you know that it's probably here to stay. Online learning, an alternative way of gaining a degree. The results of a study jointly conducted by Quality Matters and EduVentures and published just last month on the changing landscape of online education clearly demonstrates the enduring presence of online learning on a national level. As of fall 2015, national figures show this. 12% of undergraduate students enrolled in post-secondary education in America are enrolled as fully online students, 12%. 26%, though, of graduate students enrolled in post-secondary education are enrolled as fully online students. And at public four-year colleges, 1 in 14 students are enrolled fully online. So here at our own university, we've experienced growth in the number of students that enroll in online courses and pursue online programs. And the latest information to date is that, I'm going to look at Lynn and make sure these numbers are right, is that we provide 50 online programs. 11, she's saying yes. I looked at these numbers over the weekend and I thought that can't be right. That's why I wanted verification. And 11 master's degrees, 30 graduate certificates, 5 undergraduate degrees, and 4 undergraduate certificates to date. So to totally understand online learning choices and opportunities, we really need to consider how we plan to go forward and not just let it happen accidentally. This past summer, in lieu of a goal in that area, I asked the Chancellor to work with Dr. Lynn Akey to engage in identifying what are the best practices, the methods, and models in online learning across the country that are successful, that work. In addition, I charged the Cabinet with identifying initial areas of work that would be required to enable the expansion of our online program offerings. Areas such as market research methods, program capability, capacity models, the instructional development and design and support structures, the fiscal models, and program marketing and demand creation models. The work completed by the Cabinet this summer will provide a rich foundation for our faculty, staff, and administration working together this year to consider the future of our online learning initiative. And let me just say that it isn't a matter of just being left behind, it's a matter of addressing the reality of the role that online learning plays in higher education across the country. So if we're going to engage in online learning, let's make sure it's the best, and it's the quality that meets our standards. So, this year our agenda is really large, almost overwhelming with that focus on enrollment management. I keep coming back to that. Sesquicentennial planning, online education, as well as, other pressing goals, all of which I won't talk about. But later this morning, as I said, I've asked Provost Wells to talk about our 6 strategic directions, along with goals, objectives, and action steps for the coming year. But we have figured that we're going to have a number of forums and open sessions to elaborate on that more intensely. And so Marilyn's going to be talking about some other areas since we spent most of last year leading up to that. She's going to talk about the importance of implementing a new advising system here at Minnesota State Mankato. In addition, she will share with us the urgency to update and revitalize our graduate college, graduate assistantships, sponsored research and grants. Yes, did I promise you last year that we were going to take a look at graduate programs and specifically how to be more competitive with our graduate assistantships, and that is for real. That's going to be a major focus. So the timing really couldn't be better to chart our course for the future in these areas while revisiting earlier doctoral goals. About 13 years ago, 14 years ago, we'd gotten permission from the legislature to offer doctoral programs. We need to evaluate that. We need to look back now over a decade and see where are we going and how do we want to go forward. So that will be another important topic. So in summary, I truly believe we have the opportunity today that if we think and if we work smart to make a significant difference in the face of enormous headwinds in higher education, we can make a difference. In the stormy days ahead, we must seek support from our political, our financial, and our national thought leaders and society as a whole. The future of our society depends on everyone working together to address educational and global challenges. And let me just pause for a second and say to everybody, what's happening in Charlottesville, Virginia, is something that we cannot let happen here in Minnesota. It's something that we must address. Thank you. It's a serious crack in our culture that we have to repair. And I know all of you believe that. We're just one institution. We really need to address that. We'll have a message later today from our new interim chancellor, Devinder, that I'm going to share with you. But it has taken the country by a storm in cities around America. And I just want to say that our multicultural focus, what we stand for as an institution known for diversity, will continue to be strengthened even more than it has been in the past. So serving as a proud member of the Minnesota state system, we enjoy a certain reasonable amount of autonomy to direct our future. And as long as that opportunity exists, we need to do everything that we can to set our course going forward. So the complexity of the world and the changes we are witnessing, such as what I reported, understandably leaves doubt in everyone's future. Whether we are talking global or ecological changes, threats of nuclear war, starvation and disease, water shortages and contamination, whether we're talking about protests and riots around the world, or ISIS threats, or the uneasy world of politics on an international scale, one cannot help but feel today that our world is in a state of catastrophic turmoil, out of control. And if we think in that context, the role that higher education has to play, it becomes even more important for us, for our big ideas, and for our real-world focus to be relevant and emphasized to all of our graduates that will be our future leaders at this institution. So I mentioned in my introduction that it may not be clear how much influence we actually have in determining our destiny for the future of higher education. However, before you leave today, I sincerely want you to know that I believe we must try to positively influence the world through higher education. That is our major responsibility. So with that, thank you everyone for making Minnesota State University Mankato the other great university in the state of Minnesota. Thanks for coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, please find your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Marilyn Wells.
Good morning, everyone. Well, good to hear you're all awake and ready for another year. It's wonderful to be here this morning as we begin another convocation on a mid-August morning. I had in my remarks that it was going to be a sunny, optimistic morning, but it's not sunny, but it's sunny in here. So, sharing in convocation is a tradition to which we all look forward. Why is that? As a student of Latin for many years, I did what Latin students do and looked it up in the dictionary and found to call to come together. To us, convocation brings meaning because it does call us together. It is a social gathering. It unites us in purpose. Speaking of uniting us in purpose, President Davenport's address earlier this morning highlighted the dynamic landscape for higher education and inspired us to look to a new era. Each day, I'm inspired by how he, in his 16th year as our president, draws upon his experience to define and determine our university's future. As you could tell, he continues to read vociferously to know and understand our state and national landscape and envision how we can be at the forefront. The busier he is, the more energy he has, and that energy and vision is infectious amongst his leadership team, as he spoke this morning. As I was writing this address, I was watching some movies that inspire me, something I do to find my voice and my vision. Selma was one. Talk about great leaders. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Ralph Abernathy, Coretta Scott King, Amelia Boynton, Frederick Reese, and many others. Each of these leaders exhibited guidance, instinct, intelligence, courage, preparedness, and oratory. These are traits I see daily from President Davenport, and I know you do too. Thank you for President Davenport. It's hard to believe I'm beginning my 5th year, but it is just really great and a lot of fun to work with him and our cabinet and each and every one of you on this campus each day. So I hope each of you had time this summer to take time to think, and on occasion to be a little impulsive and maybe even act with a little wild abandon. I know I did. That'll get your curiosity going. I hope you treasured time with someone in the generation before you and someone in the generation after you. Generational legacies are our greatest responsibility and our greatest reward. They contribute to our richness, which we will even appreciate more deeply in our sesquicentennial celebration this year. For me, last summer was just so great, I didn't know how this summer could top that. And I kept thinking, how can this summer be better? And then I realized, sometimes what makes for a perfect day, a perfect summer, is just finding what you need right at that moment, to be in the moment, to be present. So this summer, I was into water. I visited the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, the North Sea, which looks a lot like New England, and the Gulf of Mexico. I saw more than a few movies and enjoyed a picture-perfect night in July with my daughter, Michelle, and her best friend from Hannah, who visits us each year, at their first stadium concert in Target Field. Headlining with Florida Georgia Line, Nelly, Backstreet Boys, speaking of crossing generational lines, and Chris Lane. You know, my kids are 10 years apart, so we saw Backstreet Boys then, too. We and our 39,000 plus closest friends really reveled in the moment. Now, as you recall, last year I told you we went to see Justin Bieber, and there was not like a beer cell in the place. At Target Field that night, I calculated 39,000 people, probably conservatively 3 to 4 beers a person, and the price of the beer, $1.6 to $2 million easily in beer sales. Now, that's probably a pretty nerdy thing to do at a concert on a Saturday night, but hey. So we also traveled to the Emerald Coast of Florida, where we stayed with a very dear friend of mine, a retired genetics professor from UConn, in her guest house for the entire week. Yes, the provost took an entire week off. Beyond enjoying 4 different beaches on the Gulf shores, we experienced another first, deep sea fishing. And just in case you were wondering, yes, yours truly caught a very nice size red snapper. On the professional side, in July, I traveled with our university's delegation, Steve Stoynoff, Associate Provost Fleshman, and Interim Dean Bavacqua, to Costa Rica to sign a new Memorandum of Understanding. This was unique, and it was the first time for an MOU directly with the national government and at the very high level of the Ministry of Foreign Relations. The Vice President of Costa Rica, Chief of Staff to the President, international officers for the University of Costa Rica, and a number of other dignitaries were present. While there, we toured the Gold Museum, yes, the Gold Museum, that was Dean Bavacqua's idea, where we learned much about the early Costa Rican history, the Jade Museum, a whole museum to jade, 6 floors, and an international musical festival. We also observed law enforcement approaches in Costa Rica at a major metropolitan festival. We'll be hosting a return delegation in just 2 weeks to initiate our plans to receive graduate students, faculty and student exchanges, and potentially host a bilateral conference on a regional topic of interest, such as sustainable agriculture, doing business with emerging economies in Latin America, medical tourism, or other topic we determine right for us. Annually, total trade between Minnesota and Costa Rica exceeds $415 million, and our respective countries rank in the top 10 for each other for destinations for international students. So opportunities abound for you and your students, regardless of your discipline. Earlier in the summer, in May, I, along with Dean Stoynoff, Dr. Rachel Hannell, Mass Media, Dr. Sarah Henderson-Lee, and Dr. Gwen Westerman, both from English, traveled as part of our delegation to Alnwick, England, to be a part of St. Cloud State University's week-long workshop at Alnwick Castle, an educational site they've had for 40 years, and also where some episodes of Downton Abbey were filmed. With nearly 25 faculty and academic deans from across disciplines and colleges, the week focused on opportunities in England and included excursions to sites for teaching and learning across the disciplines. On the castle grounds, we studied the breathtaking landscape and architecture of Lancelot, or Capability Brown, drove up the North Sea coast to the town of Craster and saw unique agricultural and geographical features, toured a 100-year-old coal mine site, and spent a day in Newcastle visiting the Baltic Center for Contemporary Art, Newcastle University, a premier research institution, and saw East and East at their Northern Stage theater. These are but a few of the educational sites we saw there. Yes, again, there's opportunities for you in England. And as President Davenport said, our international and global touch is really worldwide. Of course, a special part of our trip was our collaboration with St. Cloud University. Upon our return, one of our colleagues from St. Cloud wrote, "I am so pleased everyone saw opportunities and the great potential we believe to exist in Alnwick. Thank you for participating and including 3 Minnesota State Mankato faculty members in the workshop. The energy amongst all the participants was high, and the contributions from faculty and staff from both institutions made for exciting program development ideas and proposals for collaboration. In keeping with our workshop vision, more is realized when on-site, thinking about the use of the space, place, and community as partners to build new opportunities for students abroad. This was certainly true for this group. I think Rachel and Sarah and Gwen would agree. While at the castle, though we weren't invited to a retirement reception for a 50-plus year employee that was hosted by the Duke and Duchess of Northumberland, Alnwick Castle was their home. And we were there about a week too early to attend Pippa Middleton's wedding to James Matthew. Bad timing, St. Cloud. I did pick up a few new fashion tips and continue to share those with Dean Stoynoff. He now knows colors such as millennial pink and cornflower blue, and why cornflower blue was so the right choice for Kate to wear on her royal visit to Poland and Germany, along with Prince William, Prince George, and Princess Charlotte. So as Steve steps up his fashion game this year, check out his new black leather Echo shoes. And while you're at it, you might ask Steve about his experience with the castle guards late one night while he was looking at the beautiful Earth's lunar body on the castle grounds. So now all the rest of the deans are waiting, thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to say about me? So, without a doubt, one of the highlights of my summer was pausing to watch again and again the biographical film Hidden Figures, based on the nonfiction book Hidden Figures, The American Dream and the Untold Story of Black Women Who Helped Win the Space Race by Margot Lee Shetterly. Why did this film so inspire me, and how is it relevant to our theme, Determining Our Destiny? The 3 main characters, Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson, were brilliant and assertive African-American women working in the West Campus Colored Computing Group at NASA in the 1950s and 60s. They each advanced in their own right and were, quoting, the brains behind the greatest operation in history, the launch of John Glenn into orbit and guaranteeing his safe return. A stunning achievement that restored the nation's confidence and turned around the space race. The visionary trio crossed all gender and race lines. Dorothy Vaughan, the first African-American supervisor at NASA, taught herself and her team of women computers Fortran. Mary Jackson, with an engineer's mind, became NASA's and America's first African-American female aeronautical engineer. Katherine Johnson, a genius in physics and analytic geometry, calculated the re-entry and landing coordinates for John Glenn's successful orbit around Earth and trajectories for many, many other missions, including Apollo 13 and 11 moon missions and the Space Shuttle program. I marvel and am humbled that I lived and worked in Hampton, Virginia for 12 years, where they lived, breathed, and in their own words, did their part for our country. However, in my mind, the most important character in the movie is one you barely see and hear. In the opening scene, Katherine's sixth grade teacher, Miss Summers, and principal are meeting with her parents. In all my years of teaching, I've never seen a mind like the one your daughter has. You have to go. You have to see what she becomes. At the time, in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, public schooling was not available for African Americans past the 8th grade. Without Miss Summers seeing Katherine's mathematical genius at a very young age, Katherine would not have gone on after the 6th grade to attend high school in Institute, West Virginia, and graduate at age 14. She would not have gone on to West Virginia State College, now university, and graduate at age 18 with a BA in mathematics and French. She certainly would not have gone on to be the first African American in the grad math program at West Virginia University, and eventually go on to work at NASA for nearly 3 decades, co-author 26 scientific papers, and win prestigious awards, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2015. Katherine Johnson turns 99 this month and spoke at Hampton University's commencement this past May. As I reflect on my role as provost and your chief academic officer, I can't help but be reminded of the value and the relevance of education as a profession and the public good of good public school teachers, our very origins as a university in 1868. I also can't help but wonder, who are the hidden figures amongst us? Let us support you. Let us celebrate you. Like Dr. Michael Bentley, who was named our 2017 Outstanding Undergraduate Faculty Mentor of the Year. I'm in so many meetings and places, and oftentimes students will say, who's someone that inspired you? And I can't tell you how many times last year I heard Dr. Bentley's name come up. But yet he's one who goes about doing his job very humbly. And so we need to celebrate more of our hidden figures. Another scene that continues to resonate in my mind was decades later, when Katherine was working in the Space Task Group at NASA. After a very long and challenging day in the space race to beat the Russians into space, Katherine takes her mathematical calculations into her supervisor's office, Al Harrison, who's a composite character in the film. A bit down, Al asks Katherine, "Do you think we can get to the moon?" Katherine confidently responds, "We're already there, sir." When I think of our university's future and our destiny, in my mind, we're already there. Are you? Finally, as the weeks and pressure intensified amongst America's best scientific and math minds during the height of the space race, on one occasion, Mr. Harrison extorts, "What I'm asking you to do, what I'm asking everyone in this room to do, my mathematical geniuses, look beyond the numbers. Look around them, look through them, the answers to questions we don't even know to ask." So, as we turn to look at the challenges of our day and the deeply complex national landscape for public higher education, I invite each of you to ask questions we don't even know to ask, to look beyond. This summer at my National Professional Conference, the ASCU, or American Association of State Colleges and Universities, Academic Affairs Summer Meeting in Baltimore, George Mahaffey, ASCU's Vice President for Academic Leadership and Change, that's an interesting title, shared his views on the most pernicious issues confronting us today, both in their manifestations and their consequences. With the theme, "Are you part of the problem or part of the solution?" George identified 3. Growing economic disparities between rich and poor, growing educational disparities between rich and poor, and growing political divisions amongst various groups in our country. George continued, stating that economic inequality may be the most important, We have always had an American dream that if we work hard and play by the rules, we can succeed. That with hard work, our kids will be better off than we are. Economic inequality changes that equation. It changes our concept that we're all in this together. Economic inequality breeds suspicion and trust. Just a very few minutes ago, we heard President Davenport quote title after title of articles in the news media that speak about the public mistrust of higher education. The second, educational inequality, is inextricably interconnected with the first, economic inequality. Growing economic inequality exacerbates educational inequality and vice versa. This is basic. We know this to be true. Economic inequality closes the doors of opportunity to higher education. It makes it extremely difficult for students in the lower economic strata to pursue higher education. And if they do find a way to pursue, it is most often finances that are the barrier to completing their degree. We heard President Davenport speak of that earlier this morning and how we're changing scholarships. In direct response to his question, are you part of the problem or part of the solution? George highlighted research published this year, January 2017, in both scientific publications as well as the New York Times, by Raj Chetty and his associates at Stanford University's Equality of Opportunity Project, which found that some institutions reinforce inequality while others change the equation for students and their families. In their large-scale study of 30 million Americans, Chetty and his associates found that some institutions take in disproportionate numbers of students of enormous economic privilege, the top 1%, and then, not surprisingly, produce graduates who go on to enjoy that lifestyle of rare economic privilege. The probability of attending an elite private college is 77 times higher for children in the top 1% of economic distribution compared to those in the bottom 20%. Other institutions, however, take in far larger percentages of students who are less economically advantaged and graduate them to lives of greater economic opportunity. Specifically, they take in more students from the bottom 20% of income distribution, and after those students graduate, a significant number of those remarkably poor students move to the top 20% of family income. Proudly, it was the ASCU institutions, public institutions, state comprehensive colleges and universities, like us, who were singled out to be creators of the American dream. In fact, according to the Chetty study, the best performing institution in the United States for economic mobility, an institution that was an engine of mobility, is California State University, Los Angeles. Chetty's study of equality of opportunity poses questions for our university to ask that we've not thought to ask before. We have the opportunity to look beyond. How well do we do in admitting students from the lower quintiles of economic distribution, retain them and graduate them, and see them advance to middle and upper income lives? Talk about taking student success to a new level. Do we aspire to be one of the top performers nationally as a creator of the American dream? A worthy goal, I think, given our mission as a public institution. 150 years ago, when our university was founded, this would not have even been a question for us to ask. Did you know that it was not until 1934, 50 years into our history, that our institution charged tuition for the first time? The third national challenge that Dr. Mahaffey noted, growing political divisions between various groups in our country, is one to which our campus, along with many others nationwide, has been quite attuned over the last year. As we heard and as we know, another very real and raw example just occurred this past weekend with the protests and violence, injuries and death in Charlottesville, Virginia, and on the campus of the University of Virginia. We have no place for such hate on our campus. Just a few weeks ago, on July 25th, U.S. Senator John McCain spoke on the Senate floor to the very issue of political divisiveness and the need to find compromise. Quoting Senator McCain, "Our deliberations today, not just our debates, but the exercise of all of our responsibilities, authorizing government policies, appropriating the funds to implement them, exercising our advice and consent role, are often lively and interesting. They can be sincere and principled, but they are more partisan, more tribal, more of the time than any other time I can remember. Continuing, the 30-year senator elocuted, "The most revered members of this institution accepted the necessity of compromise in order to make incremental progress on solving America's problems and to defend her from adversaries." As a public institution, as a public university, we are in the midst of this national and global landscape. While not perfect, we have demonstrated our ability to rise and to respond to the national landscape, to propel our university forward. We have introduced new opportunities for our faculty, staff, and students and members of the larger community to have a space and a place, to listen, to learn, and to welcome all voices. One that was inspired, grew out of a February department chair's early morning breakfast meeting, and planned by our faculty was our new spring 2017 University Colloquium Series, American Politics and Our Democratic Principles. Themes for the 5 colloquia sessions included separation of church and state, constitutional principles, contemporary issues, current geopolitical conflict zones, critical issues for America, the role of the media and free press in a democratic society, sanctuary campus safe spaces, what can Minnesota State Mankato do, what should I say and how should I say it, communication strategies for challenging conversations. Across the series, panelists included 15 of our very own faculty, 2 of our staff, 3 administrators, 4 community leaders, and 4 legislators, each sharing their expertise. The audiences were diverse and representative of our campus, faculty, staff, students, emeriti, community members, totaling more than 300 across the series. Information Technology Solutions graciously live-streamed the programs. Discussions were rich and extensive. In no session did we end early because there were no more questions or voices to be heard. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who was a part of planning and participating in this reflective and intellectually engaging series. Stand up if you were a part of that. We had a lot of folks. In response to George Mahaffey's question, we were a part of the solution. You were a part of the solution. We do this daily on this campus with how we uphold shared governance. We collaborate and we work to find good for our faculty, our students, and our community. So let me take a few minutes to highlight some additional achievements across academic affairs in 2016 and 2017. Joining our top-notch faculty today, we welcome 26 new probationary and 36 faculty. That's 62 new faculty. We also welcome 8 new probationary and 2 fixed-term administrative service faculty. That's 10. Our search committees did a fantastic job bringing us new faculty with high-caliber credentials and unique professional experiences for our students. While I certainly cannot highlight all 72 this morning, I'd like to share just a few. Dr. Saif Islam, joining the Department of Sociology recently, completed his dissertation on the response of special interest groups to Obamacare and the changing organizational field of healthcare policy in the United States. His research include political sociology and policy, organizations, social movements, and medical sociology. Again, welcome, Dr. Islam. Dr. Angelica Aguirre, psychology, a board-certified behavioral analyst, specializes in neurodevelopmental and related disorders. She previously worked in the field as a behavioral specialist at Learning Arts, an organization in Fresno, California, dedicated to assisting children with autism reach their full potential. Welcome, Dr. Aguirre. Dr. Charles Croy joins us from the University of California, Berkeley, where he earned his PhD in comparative biochemistry and was recipient of their William V. Power Graduate Award. Dr. Croy has been conducting postdoctoral research at Berkeley and has held appointments as visiting professor at St. Lawrence University and adjunct professor at the College of Alameda. Welcome, Dr. Croy. Joining our English and Creative Writing faculty, Chris McCormick, MFA, is the author of Desert Boys, a novel published by Picador in 2016. His essays and stories have also appeared in The Atlantic, Tin House, Plowshares, and The Offing. Before joining our faculty here at Minnesota State Mankato, he taught literature and composition at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor and is currently working on his second novel. Welcome, Chris. We also recognize members of our regular faculty returning this fall. 25 newly tenured faculty. Woohoo, yes, woohoo. I remember that day I got my letter in the mail that says, tenured, yay. We have 18 faculty now promoted to associate professor and 18 additional faculty promoted to professor. More woohoos. And we welcome back 34 faculty who were on sabbatical leave last year. Yes. When you think about that, that's about 10 to 15% of our regular faculty who take a sabbatical leave this year. We have quite an investment in sabbatical leaves. And sabbatical leaves are the pinnacle of professional development and contribute to our student success and our university's competitiveness. Beginning this year, we'll be launching a new publication to better showcase our faculty's sabbatical projects and the really cool things they've done. Interestingly, more than 1 out of 3 of our faculty who were on sabbatical leave last year had an international component to their projects or research. Earlier this morning, we heard President Davenport talk about our 1,238 international students representing 97 countries that were here this spring. And we have all of those flags here represented in the room. Aren't they beautiful? Amongst the countries that were the top 4, we have Saudi Arabia, we have Nepal, India, and South Korea. And so we welcome students from all 97 countries, but those were our top 4 corners of the world. For the coming year, we will have 32 faculty who will be on sabbatical leave. Dr. Oksana Kim, Associate Professor, Department of Accounting and Business Law, will study audit committee characteristics and earnings management, a case study of an emerging economy. Dr. Christopher Brown, Associate Professor in the Department of Communication Studies, will research how sport lends itself to activist, athlete, social, and political endeavors despite the apolitical nature of the playing field, with particular attention on contemporary athletes' activism. With athletes in the news every day for their activism, Chris's research is timely and relevant. 2016-2017 also marked year 2 in our 3-year academic master plan, an intentional path forward. I'm proud to say that across the university, our faculty, staff, and students have continued to advance our plan. In many meetings and conversation that I was a part of last year, I heard our academic master plan referenced on many occasions as something to be considered in planning or a reason for making decisions. For our academic degree program plans, one of the major strands of our academic master plan, each of our 6 colleges saw exciting progress this past year. I'll highlight just a few of those. In the College of Allied Health and Nursing, all 7 units have been tracking their progress on their respective plans. Health Sciences identified the BS in Alcohol and Drug Studies as a program to grow. This past year, resources were reallocated to add a faculty line with plans for program revision this coming year. The School of Nursing, in their plan, identified the DMP as a program to grow. Enrollment has increased, but not yet to their desired level, or ours. Several strategies were identified, and last year they invested in a nationally distributed trade magazine. Other programs in the college that realized growth this past year, though modest, include the BS in Community Health Education, Certificate in MS in School Health Education, and MS in Rehabilitation Counseling. In the College of Arts and Humanities, 5 of 26 programs of projected growth actually achieved those growth targets. Interestingly, of the 5 growth programs, 3 were new programs that were launched and achieved their enrollment projections in the first 2 years: Film and Media Studies, Music Industry, and the online MS Spanish for the Professions. We looked to the other 21 who remained flat or declined in enrollment to achieve their growth targets this year. The College of Arts and Humanities outperformed the university in student diversity by 4%, and increases in 6-year graduation rates were achieved this past year. Advancing faculty leadership, art professor Gina Mummer-Wenger was named 2016 Higher Education Art Educator of the Year. I'll add that for last year's Common Read, Gina had a beautiful display of her photography in the gallery last year that was really breathtaking about the Japanese internment camps. The College of Business tackled student diversity, being the first to pilot a supplemental instructor program and achieve significant results in closing the opportunity gap for students in Accounting 200. We heard President Davenport talk about how important it is that we tackle the difference in graduation rates between students of color and white students. Congratulations to John Estall for leading the way and the students who were involved in that project. Through the collaboration of 4 departments and with the leadership of Dr. Roger Severance, a new certificate program in business analytics was developed. The College of Business faculty also revised undergraduate curriculum to align with the new business transfer pathways. How could we forget? We had over 60 people from our campus involved in transfer pathways, and it continues to go forward. And finally, the college advanced our university's new Center for Innovation Entrepreneurship, located in Old Town Mankato in the Hubbard Building. An open house is scheduled for September 14th, and I know you'll want to be there. The College of Education also realized many Year 2 accomplishments with program adjustments to meet student and public needs. All 3 teacher preparation programs increased. The EDD and Educational Leadership achieved significant growth in their Cohort 7, and the Principal Leadership program as well. Both areas reflected in intentional increases in diverse candidates to address racial equity in Minnesota public schools. The College of Education also implemented new organizational designs, renaming the Professional Development School, or PDS, School District Partnership to Minnesota Educators Partnership, with a focus on advocating improvements to the educational system legislatively and otherwise, amongst other goals. Again, we know how important it is to advocate for public higher education today. The ROTC program improved their curriculum and assessment, and as well as alumni relationships and support, and aviation continued to achieve their growth goals to meet the pilot shortage in the airline industry. I fly a lot, and I don't know about you, but I want a good pilot in that cockpit, and we're a part of the solution. The College of Science, Engineering, and Technology moved forward with steps for a new BS in computer science. The program will be significantly project-based, focus on diversifying the field, and I really like this, stream with other majors in the department to form a core group of courses to allow students to move between majors in their early years with minimal loss of credits, enhancing student success. Computer Information Sciences, also in alignment with their academic master plan, move forward with health informatics and data science initiatives that will continue progressing this year. The graduate program in math was revamped and realigned to meet a shift from more demand for statistics from math. The college has advanced more international opportunities for students in engineering through the Global Engineering Minor and Certificate programs. In the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, 3+2 bachelor's to master's accelerated programs were proposed and approved in Gender and Women's Studies and Sociology, with work underway for the year ahead in Ethnic Studies. The Department of History moved forward with online graduate certificates to meet demand for community college instructors and high school teachers who offer concurrent and enrollment in AP courses. The college also achieved improvements in space utilization. And we know that's important when we heard President Davenport talk about the future for Armstrong Hall, that we look at space utilization. They move forward with some consolidation, ending their lease with University Square, saving the college $30,000 per year. In the college, of the academic programs identified to grow in their academic plans, 1/3 achieved growth in year 2. We look to the other 2/3 to achieve their enrollment growth in the coming year. Clearly, we should all be proud of the colleges for sustaining the momentum of our academic master plan. Progress has also been achieved with the 16 recommendations from our 4 extraordinary education task forces. Advancing the recommendations of the Research, Scholarly, and Creative Activity Task Force, we saw the university's faculty, student, author recognition. Over 50 faculty who collaborated with students on published manuscripts were recognized. That is really significant. These are largely undergraduate students, and that's one of the ways that we're enhancing student success. A second achievement, an inaugural graduate online symposium showcasing research, scholarly, and creative activities was piloted with graduate students giving brief presentations. These digital presentations will be made available online through our digital platform, Cornerstone, and available worldwide, and preserve a record of our master's and doctoral candidates' contributions to their field. That's pretty cool. A third achievement, our RASP, or Research and Sponsored Programs Office, transitioned to a new location in Memorial Library to better serve faculty. As you develop your big ideas in the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning or the Center for Excellence in Scholarship and Research, you can now walk right into the adjacent and beautiful new RASP office to explore external funding opportunities to make those big ideas a reality. Recommendations brought forward by 3 of our other task forces, advising, teaching excellence and innovation, and academic engagement programs and opportunities, cast a vision for how our campus could achieve a long-desired goal, developing a coordinated undergraduate advising program. Last year, a model undergraduate integrated advising model, or UIM, was designed with the task force's recommendations shared widely and embraced by many. It is moving to the implementation of the model's 3 key components: online or onboarding and orientation, or O3, a full-service one-stop communications portal for new entering and transfer students, an advising station, a physical hub for all activities in pre-year 1 advising, referral, and case management, and third, professional development, coordinated and intensive for all who advise our students at Minnesota State Mankato, whatever your position, in whatever unit, in whatever division. To transform our advising, the task force recommendations called for leadership through the creation of a director of academic advising. This position has been approved and the search is now underway. We anticipate the new director will be on board by spring 2018. Student success is the guiding beacon of this model. Our university is committed in word and deed to ensure success of our advising model. One quote from one of the roundtables of the President's Fall Retreat last week I'll share with you. "I never thought we would see this day, but it's really happening. It's really happening." Our Ask You Reimagining the First Year of College, or as we know, RFY project, continued. Our campus implementation team, comprised of faculty and staff, has made progress with the 7 signature strategies that they brought forward. Professor Dave Ingen, Communication Studies, took the lead on a series of storytelling events that will continue this year. The Finding Your Place Storytelling Nights featured a diverse group of primarily first-generation college students and graduates sharing their complex and often challenging journeys through college. More than 200 students attended the events last year, with one student summarizing things quite nicely. Going into the storytelling night, I really wasn't sure what to expect. I mean, sure, learning about being a better student can be great, but do I really need to hear this again on how I need to be better? Well, it turns out that I did, because it was one of the most inspirational nights of stories that I ever had or experienced. This was really important because oftentimes we showcase our students for whom everything goes perfectly, but we have the majority of our students that hit bumps in the road. And for them to see in front of the room people who also hit bumps on the road and ended up graduating and on successful careers is an important thing. And I think this quote just illustrates that. Last year's inspirational storytellers included many of our own who were first-generation, transfer, and students whose paths were not simple. Chris Brown, Communication Studies, Brenda Flannery, Business, Gina Mazubri, Arts and Humanities, and Brianna Williamson, Institutional Diversity, amongst others. We see them for the professionals they are today and don't realize that they too had struggles, and that's an important message for our students to see. I encourage everyone to attend this year's sesquicentennial Finding Your Place Storytelling Nights. If you have a story you think might inspire students, get involved. Contact Professor Ingen. Continuing to demonstrate democracy in action, our 2017 Common Read will be, as President Davenport shared, Out of Chaos, Reflections of a University Professor and His Contemporaries on Vietnam-Era Unrest in Mankato and Its Relevance Today. As we know, compiled by former Mankato State College President Dr. James F. Nickerson, with a new forward for the sesquicentennial edition. The whole last year was spent by being planned by Monica Antonelli and the Common Read Committee. A keynote event for which they obtained external funding will be the world premiere showing of 2 weeks in May on November 1st. Visit mnsu.edu/commonread for all the details. Sometimes we forget, we think the troubles of our day are the worst ever, but when we look back, we can see of turbulent times before and how individuals on our institution rose to them, and so it can be inspirational for us. So with these accomplishments and many, many more, first, best, only milestones from across academic fairs, how will we look to continue beyond in 2017 and 18 academic year to determine our destiny? Continuing the popularity of the framework from last year, our big ideas are organized into 4 academic affairs spheres of influence. And you will see President Davenport's message about student success front and center in all of these. Our first sphere of influence, advancing our academic master plan into year 3. In highlighting our year 2 achievements with our academic master plan, I pointed to many areas across our colleges that will be proceeding with their year 3 priorities. Each of the deans will be speaking about these in their respective college meetings this week. Likewise, our task force recommendations are well underway. Not more to be said here. So, year 3 provides an opportunity for us to consider other elements in our academic master plan that we've not tended to yet in year 1 and 2. If you recall, and I'm sure you all really recall this, one of the questions in the program planning tool was, what might new organizational or designs or relationships be that would best support your future directions or help your department and programs to gain national prestige, increase funding, attract caliber faculty, or achieve your big ideas? We often know sometimes we have some stellar programs, but with so many, some get hid under the shade tree of other programs. So, reviewing what our faculty programs wrote about organizational relationships in those plans, and discovering exciting developments at top-tier universities nationwide gives us some things to consider this year. For example, students today think more about the major problems in the world they want to tackle and then look at the majors and competencies that will prepare them to make an impact. They come to us telling us what they want to do, and then we help them find the major, rather than students in decades past tell us what they want to major in and hope that'll lead them somewhere good. So, our traditional disciplinary names for our colleges and departments may not be serving our university well in showcasing all of our programs and recruiting prospective students. We might consider modern, new era names and relationships. So let's take a look at how some of those top-tier universities are approaching contemporary names, new organizational designs, and reimagining relationships. We also know students today are wanting to study things across departments and across colleges and are much more interdisciplinary focused, as are employers. So Virginia Tech is launching destination areas, or elements of the university's curriculum and research that will differentiate Virginia Tech. I mean, we all know Virginia Tech, but they're trying to differentiate as a leading university. These areas span the academic enterprise, leveraging existing and emerging resources and strengths, and have the potential to advance scholarship. In addition, they see growth in specific areas will help them to attract the best and brightest of students and faculty focused in those areas. The destination areas are not meant to replace or subsume existing colleges in disciplinary strengths. Instead, they'll build on those strengths. Let me share with you a few of Virginia Tech's first destination. They've identified 10, and they have 5 that are moving forward. Adaptive brain and behavior across the lifespan. Data analytics and decision sciences. Intelligent and human-centered communities. global system science. Others that they have in the pipeline, integrated health and wellness, security, risk, and resilience, and sustainability at the intersection of energy, water, and food. That sounds a lot like what we're doing. The destinations are also drawing significant external funding, $78 million for their very first one. Imagine what we could do with $78 million. We could do a lot of looking beyond. Similarly, Baylor University has launched what they're calling discovery centers, some of which are building healthier lives, saving the oceans, Baylor's in Texas close to the ocean, helping families heal, ending hunger in America. Another one, civic engagement and social responsibility. So these examples give us big ideas to consider as we look at how we might refine our organization and relationships, perhaps building on the work we have done with our current and emerging areas of distinction in our academics, research, and the industries to which our alumni go to work. One asset that we do have that we can build upon is our more than 30 external advisory boards across our colleges with 400 plus members. These can be great potential relationships to help us explore our relationships and look at new funding sources. So a little more on our areas of distinction. What's ahead for this year? One that is moving forward with many big ideas from the President's Fall Retreat last week is a new year-long series of university-wide events and publications with the theme, We Have Ag. This initiative is designed to better show students, families, communities, and business leaders what we already have and are doing well in select areas of agriculture, such as the amazing work we're doing biofuels, and to showcase ag-related careers and employment opportunities. Ag is one of the best fields for college graduates today, and we're positioned to produce those. We're working in partnership with many around the region. So quotes from the feedback at the President's Retreat last week. I like it. It is so apparent that interconnection of the ideas and will transition well to other events and our future around agriculture. Another person said, it's awesome. Another one said, we need a new advisory board to educate us on what is needed in agriculture. So for you to learn more about being a part of our ag endeavors, good starting points would be to contact Dean Martinson or Dean Flannery. We also have a number of key faculty who have been involved as we're pursuing a $750,000 grant with the U.S. Department of Agriculture to build on our non-land grant College of Agriculture status that we achieved in 2015. So a second sphere of influence, or as my deans call them, they look like planets going around in orbit. Elevate graduate education and grant participation. The time is now, maybe the time is past now, for us to elevate graduate education. The time is also now for us to elevate participation in grants and other sponsored activities to achieve the levels of external funding necessary for our graduate programs to realize their potential. The time is now for us to be more in the league with competitors of individual graduate programs and not just looking at our institutional peers. Graduate education is quantitatively and qualitatively different than undergraduate education. So maybe we really do need to look at competitors for individual grad programs than institutional peers like we do for our undergraduate enterprise. So how will we move forward ambitiously to elevate graduate education and grants participation this year? What are some questions that we do know to ask? How can we develop an ambitious graduate enrollment plan for our university this year? How do we identify our areas of opportunity? Our great programs at present that have capacity. What are some of our niche programs, our online programs, professional programs, and doctoral programs? How can we better market our graduate programs? A different endeavor than our undergraduate. How can we scale up our graduate admissions process? We've begun to make a step in bringing together undergraduate and graduate admissions operationally into a university admissions to build on each other's strengths while still allowing the flexibility for the faculty and departments to be involved in the ways that they have. How can we ensure that our graduate assistantships are competitive and enriching for the graduate students? What new strategies will elevate graduate student enrollment and completion? We hear a lot about undergraduate completion, but we've not really talked about or looked at the graduate students that begin with us. Do they complete their master's and doctoral degrees? That's a good question to ask. How can we incentivize our faculty to lead or participate on grant writing teams, perhaps related to our areas of distinction? How can we recognize faculty individually and publicly who participate on grant teams, write grants and contract proposals, and receive grant awards and contracts? These are big questions, important questions. Working with our submeets, we may think about subcommittees, joint committees, or special work groups to do this hard work, but the time is now, to quote Ms. Summers, Catherine's sixth grade teacher, to see what we can become in graduate education. Our third sphere of influence will be to implement our new strategic budget planning model. The very good news is we begin this year with a balanced budget and ready to implement our new forward-looking strategic budget planning process developed last year through the exceptional, tireless, and hard work of our budget, planning, and assessment and evaluation submeets with campus-wide input. We especially recognize the exceptional leadership of our faculty and administrative co-chairs of these three submeets: Pat Nelson, Carrie Chapman, Ava Johnson, as well as Lynn Akey and Rick Straka, and the more than 50-plus faculty and staff who serve on these submeets, and many more who participated in the campus forums throughout the year. The models and process are forward-looking. They have the potential to be transformative for our campus. They are thoughtful and transparent. They will help guide our investment decisions. However, this will be new. Before I continue, let's take a moment to give a great shout out to the 5 co-chairs of those submeets. That was huge work. As Rick, Lynn, and I go to many conferences nationally, Lynn is now on the board for the Society of College and University Planning. Rick is very involved. I can't tell you how much at the forefront of the nation we are with this process. Some have moved to a model called responsibility-centered management, which neither I nor Rick are a champion of, but this is really forward-looking and flexible and allows all of our programs to succeed. And so we can't underestimate what we have done here. However, we need to implement it. Last week at the President's Retreat, nearly 40 people participated in roundtable discussions to learn more, to ask questions, and offer their suggestions for successful implementation. Ideas are easy, implementation is hard. So what's our role? The role of everyone in this room here this morning. Get to know the model and the process, both the big picture and the technical details. Fully and honestly participate in the process throughout the year. Remember, our mission is a comprehensive public university to serve the state of Minnesota and our students and to be student-centered. Think of the greater good, the sustainability of our university in the decades to come. We need to think our university and not my college or my department. We are only as strong as our weakest link. So stay tuned, much more to come, and we will continue to have the excellent leadership of our 3 submeets. So our fourth sphere of influence, elevate the roles for faculty in student success with a focus on diverse student success. Our fourth sphere is to raise student success with a focus on our diverse students, especially to support the unique and special roles of faculty who already contribute to student retention and completion each day in and out of the classroom. Our many, many student awards and achievements, of which neither President Davenport nor I could mention this morning, are a testament to our faculty. However, we need to get more than 52% across the finish line and in shorter than 6 years. So a group that we belong to, the Education Advisory Board, they're a nationally known, research-based best practice group, has studied nationally how the Academy can support institutional efforts to improve retention and completion. Much of the focus in recent years has been focused on what student affairs can do, and we're absolutely excellent partners. However, a top finding, not surprising to me, but it was a finding in the study, faculty play a critical role in shaping the student's experience, but institutionally are surprisingly underleveraged as allies in student success strategies. And so EAB came out with an infographic, 6 ways that academic units and individual faculty members can help students successfully navigate their careers. The students we have today are quantitatively and qualitatively different than the students that we started college with, however many years or decades ago that was. So we can't compare their experience to what we knew. We need to learn and look at best practices. So what are these 6 roles for faculties for student success, and what opportunities do I see for us this year? The first one is addressing curriculum barriers to completion. For us, the time is right to assess and evaluate our requirements for admission to major through a lens of student success. For example, our own campus data that we've shared shows that students who declare and are admitted to a major in their first year have a 5 times higher graduation rate than students who remain in undecided land past their first year. Yet, nearly all of our majors require students to have 32 credits or more completed to be admitted to admission to a major. So while we say students admitted to major in their first year do graduate at 20% higher rate, we have rules that prevent them from doing that. We're smarter than that. This is likely a remnant of an era when our bachelor's degrees were 128 credits. That was one thing we didn't move. So with Dr. Dan Crone-Mills, our faculty CDS coordinator, faculty can initiate this change expediently and without a lot of barriers as they so choose to do. Also, our own policy for academic good standing, not academic poor student standing, not academic failing student standing, but academic good standing is a GPA of 2.0. Yet the vast majority of our 140, give or take, majors require a higher, in some cases, much higher admission for GPA. 2.25, 2.50, 2.75, 3.0. We probably have less than 5 majors that a student with a GPA of 2.0 can walk in and declare this afternoon. And we have a lot of those students. A lot of individuals with GPAs in the lower 2s go on to be presidents of the nation, colleges, businesses. They just bloom at a different time. Some of you are nodding in this room. So let me be clear. I absolutely support those GPA requirements where evidence demonstrates that a higher GPA is essential for student success in the major, licensure exams, or other professional requirements. However, there are potentially many majors we have set GPA requirements without always considering the lens of our students today, their demand, and employer demand. So it's time to look at that. A second role for faculty in student success is redesigning academic policies. One of the key actions we can take here is to build upon work that our faculty completed in developing our academic maps 2 years ago, and to make sure that we're fully utilizing academic maps when we build course schedules. A map is a good tool for students telling them what class to take when, but it's only going to be useful to the students if the courses they need are available in the semester and at the time they need them. A question we do know to ask: are we offering adequate sections of courses at the times of day in the days that students need them? A third way that we can uphold faculty in student success is with our academic advising model. Enough said, we're on this one. Our new model will not be perfect, and we will continually assess and improve it, but we all need to enthusiastically support implementation to see what we can become. 4, enhancing the learning experience. It's clear that great teachers have an outsized impact on student success in college and in their careers. We have many faculty that do this every day. However, not forgetting our HLC final report from last summer, this was an area that was noted for us for continuous improvement, and there are many opportunities for us to consider and do so. First, we will focus on critical courses for students that have high rates of grades of D, F, or W, and pilot innovative supplemental instruction models as the College of Business did last year. We also aim to increase the use of D2L and other technologies in our face-to-face courses to enhance the learning experience. We can and we should increase the use of D2L, Quality Matters, or other well-respected online instructional design models in our online offerings. Another note, just last week at the President's Retreat, Dean Rutherford and Dr. Ani Dahlman, who, as you remember, co-facilitated our task force on academic engagement opportunities, co-facilitated a roundtable last week on enhancing the learning experience. Some of the things that they shared with us, many good ideas, things we can do right now that do not cost us any money. For example, one of the groups that we particularly seek to retain is our students who have the very highest of GPAs. GPAs above 3.8, our top flyers, our high flyers. However, this is a group who we do not retain and graduate at the rates that we would expect or that we would like to. We tend to lose this group pretty much. When we talk to them, we say, "Why did you leave us?" Oftentimes they say, "We did not challenge them enough. We did not engage them enough." So at that roundtable, I think Dr. Dahlman shared some things that we could all do, whether we're in line at the new university dining hall, in the library, wherever we are on campus. Look students in the eye. How are you doing? How was your day? What co-curricular activities are you involved in? How's your class experience going? These are things that we can do to engage students with a growth mindset and create a sense of belonging. So, as we look to our new year, these are new things that we can do. But I'd like to interject and add, I think a fifth thing that's not a sphere of influence is that how can we continue to sometimes stop and think about what is it that we stop doing. We sometimes get on a treadmill and we continue to do things because we've done them before. They might have solved the problem of 10, 15, 20 years ago, but are they still relevant today? Give ourselves permission to sometimes stop doing things so we can do the things that we do now to confront our challenges. A fifth role for flagging signs of, for faculty and student success is flagging signs of student success, flagging signs of student risk. We want to recognize student success. How can we build a greater awareness and utilization of early warning systems? You heard President Davenport mention how we have a new tool, Mav Connect by Starfish Enterprise Platform, and a campus implementation team. Nikki Stock is leading this effort out of new student and faculty programs. Our faculty representatives include Dr. Andy Lassiter, Dr. Dan Crone-Mills, and Dean Cecil is also on the team. However, technological tools are only as good as we use them. Listen for more to come and get on board. And then, when we do identify signs of students at risk, let's do something. One thing that our departments and colleges can do right now, and some are doing it, is offer a few courses that begin in the second 8 weeks of the semester to enable students who need to drop a course to complete 15 credits for that semester. Sometimes students are in a course, they're failing it or getting a D, but their options are hang in there, get a D, decimate my GPA, or drop it and go below 12 credits and lose my financial aid. By having another option for them, a course that they can jump into the second half of the semester, their GPA goes up, they complete 15 credits, they feel better about their experience. Those are the things that we can do to retain students. We know students who graduate better when they complete 15 credits a semester, 30 a year. Number 6, I've touched on a little bit, mentoring rising risk students. Again, I want to underscore the opportunity to touch our talented, high-achieving students, the high flyers. As I said, this is exactly the group that we want to retain, and we can do more. And so we can think about how can we expand the opportunities that we have, whether it's honors, undergraduate research, study abroad. What can we do more to help our best and brightest students succeed, graduate with us, and then maybe even continue in one of our graduate programs? Simple messages, simple questions to the students, like I mentioned earlier, send a powerful message. As a university, we offer many opportunities, resources, and services across all divisions for our students. For students who actively seek them out, they do well. They retain and graduate. However, for many of our students, they do not seek help. They get lost, and they do not retain or graduate. In short, we're passively engaged. We serve those students who come to us. They show up in our college doors, in an SRC's office, in a financial aid office. but we can do better in actively reaching out to students. How do we as a university move from passive engagement to active engagement in student success? As we conclude this morning, I'll share a few quotes. One from Reverend Ralph Abernathy, who was one of the leaders in the Selma March from Selma to Montgomery. "I don't know what the future holds, but I know who holds the future." And then finally, a final quote from Hidden Figures. "After John Glenn's successful re-entry and landing, marking the first successful orbit around Earth, amidst the joy and exhilaration of all in that space task group at NASA, Al Harrison asked Katherine Johnson, 'How did we do it?' I looked beyond. I believe in our ability to see what we can become, to ask questions we do not yet know to ask, to determine our destiny." Thank you. I look forward to seeing you at the campus cookout beginning now. We have a new student rally on Friday at 11 o'clock by the Arch. We will have discounted tickets available for a barbecue at $5, but it's one of those ways that we can begin to move from passive engagement to active engagement. I also look forward to seeing you at many of our sesquicentennial events throughout the year. Time for food. Let's have a great year. Thank you.